sales organization, you want 60% or better of your business coming from referrals.
And so now I'm learning that things are not so straightforward like that. Yeah. That's coming with time, maturity, emotional intelligence.
I started getting into the environment hunting at 7.
Oh, wow.
Because I started to shoot the bow, bow and arrow and learning that.
What I learned is that people don't like the scripted version of you.
Well, guess what? That building was 100% leased, fully spoken for prior to certificate of occupancy.
I think that people don't see that. They just think, like exactly how you said, like it's just like, oh, I just woke up here.
There's two sides to passion, right? There's a harmonious side and there's an obsessive side.
Sometimes you expect the punch because that leaves the person open. So, I knew where to take my hits. I knew when to duck.
He looked at me straight in my face and told me, listen, I'm good whether you make it or you don't. I'm good. You're not.
Welcome to another episode of the Bottom Line Podcast, where we say what we mean and we mean what we say, because at the core of everything that is, was, and forever will be, there will always be the bottom line. Today's guest. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Bottom Line Podcast, where we say what we mean and we mean what we say, because at the core of everything that is, was, and forever will be, there will always be the bottom line. Today's guest is Brooklyn's own Miss Lady Realtor. I call her, when I see her stuff online, Brooklyn's Wonder Woman, Miss Susan Chung with Compass. So a couple of things that I think really stood out to me that made me really want to get on this with you is just your grind. Like your grind is it's inspiring, it's motivational, and it wasn't really okay. So it was the real estate in the beginning, but I'm like, the real estate is cool because it's like, it's Brooklyn, and Brooklyn's got like all these landmarks, and then I think the Bowtie Banker is one of our mutual connections. Yes. And then so then I'm watching your content, but then it's like your grind is. I respect your grind. I respect your hustle. I respect like the authenticity of it all. So I'm glad that you could take the time to, jump on here and share a little bit of your life with us. So how are you? How's your morning going? How's your day going so far? How's everything?
Thank you. Well, that was a really nice introduction, and I very much appreciate you following. So morning has been great. I am up at 5. I'm in the gym by 6. So I've got my gym stuff done. I've already had my marketing meeting, and I've eaten. So I'm good. We're happy. It's a good day.
Yeah, I'm happy you're happy. So here's what I think COVID and the work from home culture kind of changed everything. It kind of changed people's, their grind pretty much, right? It's like we got really comfortable. I start to see more hoodies now. I start to see more t-shirts now. When I was maybe, I want to say high school, college, I think pajama swag was a thing. You know what I mean? And just before we got on, you were telling me, you go to bed early and you're up early, right? So your day, how many hours of your day would you say are just work, and work? Is it like a majority of your day? Is it like you kind of jump in, jump out? Like, yeah, right? You're nodding.
Yeah, it's pretty much, it's from like the minute I'm up to the minute I rest my head. It's almost a nonstop. It's go, go, go. Don't get me wrong. There are definitely some days that I get some breaks. Sometimes I'll lay down on my desk, 20-minute cat nap.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's necessary. But most days, like I said, I'm up at 5. I'm in the gym by 6 usually. Once in a while, I'll do a little bit later, but it's usually around that time. And then my day starts pretty much as soon as I cook, eat, clean, shower. I'm jumping right in, and it oftentimes will start at 9 a.m. Doesn't end until 9 o'clock at night, sometimes 10 o'clock at night. I do try to get to bed early, but that's not always the easiest, especially when you're just finishing at like 9, 10 o'clock. My body definitely needs a good 2 to 3 hours to wind down and sort of decompress from work. And while I don't work physically, I feel like mental exhaustion is often what's going on. And then that's pretty much it. I recently had a family member come stay with me, and I was launching 3 or 4 new properties and staging all of them, and it's you know, I thank God I had her help, but you know, sometimes it's definitely an all-day affair.
Yeah, yeah, I get it. I'm right there with you, right? Because I'm watching everything you're doing, and I'm like, okay, how many cups of coffee do you think she drinks a day?
I
Right?
start with one. I have
Yeah.
a second one somewhere around 10 a.m. And then everything else throughout is decaf because I cannot take more than that.
Oh, okay. Got
This
it.
is
Got
where
it.
I'm at. The
Yeah.
water.
Yeah. So it's like a placebo effect, right? Like you just drink the decaf. Yeah. So I've got this problem where I'm like, I think it started like security, like I used to work security overnight, right? And so that's where you get paid the differential. So I didn't really get to sleep a lot. I tell like these power naps, 4 hours here, 3 hours there, like 45 minutes here, 45 minutes there, right? So like I've conditioned to not need a lot of sleep, but I do have a hard time shutting it all down. Right. And that's probably the hardest part. Is there like a process, right? Because like you have a morning routine, I'm sure, and then you have like a nighttime routine, right? So it's like, is there a process? Because it doesn't sound like you have a hard time waking up. It's probably shutting down. That's the hardest thing to do. Is that right?
You're 100% right. Waking up, I just bumped into a client of mine. And I was like, how do you do it? I'm like, I love waking up early. It feels
Yeah.
great after you do it so long. Going to bed is definitely more of a process. I am still trying to refine it and perfect it.
Yeah.
I've noticed that a light shower, depending on like how I'm feeling, like a quick shower or a steamy shower feels nice. I try not, I mean, I usually have my phone, but I do put it on do not disturb after like 9 o'clock. People always get really upset. You can't reach me after 9 o'clock.
Right. Right.
And then I find, so I don't really watch a lot of TV. I do love to read. I'm a slow reader, but I love to read. I love, you're going to laugh, romance novels are my thing.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm a Colleen Hoover fan.
Yeah.
And so I find that like, you know, I have a whole face routine. So I take the shower, I do the face routine, and then a tall glass of magnesium powder.
Oh, okay.
Knocks me right out. Within 30 minutes, I am ready for bed. I put on the Calm app. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. I love that app. The sleep stories are my jam. And that's how I get myself ready for bed.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, that works. Me, I do like a bunch of push-ups, right? I just go until I hit failure because like I need physical exhaustion. So I'll probably go to the gym. On the days that I don't go to the gym, because like I'm a loser, right? Like I update my spreadsheet and I'm like, this is more important. So you can call me, you can say, yo, let's go chill. And I'm like, spreadsheet, I'm good, right? And I got to do my thing, you know. So if I don't get into the gym for physical, you know, exhaustion, I'll just do push-ups until I'm done. So for failure, I've got a bar. I have a pull-up bar. I'll do that, and I like the little roller for like abs, right? Because I don't want the dad vibe going on. You know what I mean? So, but that'll help me unwind. I'm more of a person that I need physical exhaustion, and I can like shut down mentally, right? The nighttime routine. Okay, because you're very competitive. I don't think it's just competitive from like real estate or just like sales. I think you're just a genuinely competitive person, right? Like you're probably wired that way, right?
I don't know where it came from.
Yeah.
I don't remember being a competitive child, but
no, not at all.
I don't remember being that way, no. But maybe I was and just was like, this is just me. This is who I am.
Yeah. Okay. So you grew into that then. So like, okay, what would you say is like your number one passion? Is it the fitness? Is it the sales? Is it health? Is it like beauty? Like what's your number one passion?
Oh, that's a really good question. You're gonna laugh. So I actually think I want to say it's relationships, actually.
Wow, okay.
I really value my relationships with people, my friends, my family, my clients, you know, people who follow me on Instagram or on social media. When they reach out and they're like, oh, you're inspiring, or, you know, like that that inspires me. So
yeah,
I would say it's like it's the relationship. It's the dynamic between two people. I would say that is actually probably one of my biggest passions. I love when people come up to me and they're like, I love your energy. And that's probably one of the biggest compliments I get. And it's reciprocated, right? Like it's all cyclical. So like you give, I give, it's an energy exchange. That energy exchange is something I get so high from. So I would say that's my passion, and it happens in my business, thankfully, very often.
Yeah.
And I love fitness because I love the way it makes me feel. I love leaving the class or the gym and I'm on a high. I love taking the, the Spartan races, and I've got like I'm on like a month high of, serotonin. And then I guess because of what fitness has given me physically, I think other people see that and then they'll compliment or they'll ask questions like, how do you do it? And I think that connection is where I think that's what really drives me, actually.
Yeah. So I've got this whole thing that I talk to people about, and it's weird, right? Because you already have it. So it's like you already have it like on the relationship side. And that sounds like you just said that's the most important thing to you. So, okay. A lot of us are not set up at all in a lot of the things that we jump into. You know what I mean? It's kind of like we jump into it and we kind of learn as we go, right? So what I'll say to somebody is set me up, right? Put me in your scenario. Set me up for me to be able to understand how to win in your game, in your world. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, I don't know if you watch basketball, it's like the layup, right? If you tell me where to stand, you tell me the ball's coming, I'm going to lay it up because it's like, that's all I have to do. So set me up to win, right?
Love this question.
Yeah.
I love this question because I have also a huge passion for teaching, not teaching, but like sharing what I've learned.
Yeah.
And a few years ago, I met a woman. Her name was Dr. April Darley. She's magnificent. She taught me a lot about how the brain works. And I don't know if I mentioned this to you once before, but growing up, I actually was a cutter, which is kind of crazy to think about. But from age 15 to 30, I used to cut. And then when I hit 30, I landed in the hospital for the second time. So I was like, this is something I need to stop doing and figure out how to redivert my energy here. And so I was introduced to April Darley through my sister, who's a naturopathic doctor in Arizona. April's also one. And April taught me about how the brain works, how the minds work, how, your survivor brain compared to your emotional brain compared to your logical brain, and like what the functions of each do. And she taught me how to remove myself from that hysterical emotional movement or survivor brain into the more logical brain. And alongside that, I learned to self-improve. Self-improvement, I think, is probably one of the most important things that I don't care if it's this business, your business, anybody's business. It doesn't matter if you're an employee, it does not matter. Self-improvement is key. And it's not, some of it can be hokey. Go ahead, whatever, say what you want to say.
Right.
The first book I ever read on self-improvement was You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. I got it on Audible. It was, if you're new to the self-improvement world, it is a phenomenal audiobook. She narrates it herself, so you can really hear it in the first person and how, exactly how she meant what she said. And from there, I became a little bit addicted. I loved the way I felt starting my day off with gratitudes and, and just, and then I started listening to Abraham Hicks. Oh my gosh. If you've ever heard about Abraham Hicks, it's like just having control over your mind, learning to control your mind. And the way you do it is literally through repetition. As children, we grow up and we learn certain things. And then as adults, we have to actually go back and like relearn everything that we learned.
Right.
So that's why I said, I don't think I was always a competitive child. I think it's something I learned or became because I started self-improving through all these books,
Yeah.
So that's, I think, where I would start anybody off.
Yeah, that's cool. I really like that because it kind of gives me a better, like more insight into where your competitive nature comes from, right? Because it's really like what I'm hearing is like, is you competing against you, right? And it's like you constantly improving as you go along. It's like, as long as you know what you're capable of, you can pursue it, right? With confidence. But it's like, that's not enough. Let me try to do better next time kind of thing, right? So that's what I'm hearing. It's like you are your own competition, right? And it's probably on a subconscious level even, right? Like it's not even so much like you're competing with your peers or anything, right? It's just like, no, this is for me, this is for Susan.
Me versus me.
Yeah.
I think there's a book, Atomic Habits. I haven't actually dived into it fully yet, but I learned from people I'm around and associated with. It's that 1% better every day.
Yeah.
Right? 1%.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
you and I
yeah.
have that in common for sure, right? Because I'm like, I built so like I didn't know it was called negative self-talk. I was just like, that's how it was. Like I was growing up and it'd be like I would talk to myself in that way. You know what I mean? Like internal kind of like monologue kind of thing. And it works for me, but it's like when people are around you, it's kind of like it looks like you're trying to outdo them, right? And it's like, no, like especially in the gym, I'm like, no, this is like what I do. And I got my headphones on, I'm like zoned out, and I'm like, this is what I do. And then when it comes to like, here's the other thing with like sales is funny, right? Because it's like I want to make sure that I provide an exceptional service. So I expect that. You know what I mean? I expect that when I'm like on the receiving end, I want you to now if you drop the ball and you're like, you know, you don't know your game, you don't know, you can't educate me about what I'm trying to buy. It's like, okay, like where did I go wrong in my life, right? Like where did I drop the ball with someone and now I'm getting on the receiving end of that, right? Like karmic law or something. So part of it is kind of like
We are.
When you compete with and you see yourself, it's kind of like you have that outer body experience and you can kind of look back, pat yourself on the back a little bit and say, you know what, I've come a long way and I'm proud of that. Like, so are you one of those people who's like, yo, you know what, I'm proud of where I've been and where I'm going? Or are you one of those people who's like, just got this insatiable appetite to win and you're like, nah, this isn't good enough. Like the next level is like, it's going to be better. Like, where do you see yourself? Like, where do you fall?
I think I'm a little bit of both.
Are you?
Yeah, and here's why, or here's what I can tell you about it.
Yeah.
I'm in business now almost 10 years, and I'm with Compass since 2017, or since the end of 2017.
Okay.
And you work so hard for so many years.
Mm-hmm.
I might even get emotional. You know, and then all of a sudden, one day, things just start. They just start to click.
Yeah.
And it happened to me this year actually, where my sales manager called me, and she never calls me. Actually, up until this year, I didn't even know who she was.
Right.
Which is so crazy. Like we never talked. I never had a reason to reach out. I wasn't producing all that much. And then this year, it's been consistent for the last couple of years. And this year, she introduced herself during one of the sales meetings. And then I was in the gym one morning and she called me, or she texted me and she was like, call me. And I was like, oh God, what did I do? I never talked to her. She never texts me that. And right away she was like, you put 5 deals in contract? And I was like, oh no, I have 9 deals in contract. And she's like, what? She's like, all my agents are, are down. The business is slow with 30% decrease and blah, 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 blah. And she says, you're define market conditions because of the practices and the foundation that you've implemented. And then I sat down for a minute and I was like, what is she saying to me? And so it made me realize, it was that moment just for a second that you stop, because I've got blinders on, right? I see my goal and I'm going after it, and like nothing can stop me. Like you can hit me on the head with a 2x4, you're not going to get my attention.
Right.
I have a vision and I'm heading in that direction. But for a split second, when she said it to me, and I took a minute, and I was like, oh my God, are you talking to me?
Right.
And it made me so emotional. Like I remember actually crying on the bathroom floor in the gym for a minute, just because you work so freaking hard all the time. And when somebody finally notices, or when the fruits of your labor start to pop off, it's like, it just hits you like a ton of bricks. Yeah. And I remember my girlfriend calling me. She always FaceTimes me, and I'm hysterical. And she says, what's the matter? I'm like, oh, and then I'm telling her about what my manager just said. She's like, oh, I already knew you were a rock star. Right. It's funny because you're you, and like you said, you're competing against you. So you're not really paying attention so much to what other people are seeing, because you're just feeling what you're looking ahead at that goal. You're like, I'm not there yet. So you don't realize that other people are like, oh no, you're doing a good job. And then when it hits you like a ton of bricks. But I'm not stopping there. If anything, it just sort of opened up the world of what else is possible. And it literally was just, oh, guess what? We're on another level.
Yeah.
So,
Levels.
and like yeah, there's levels to this, and I'm like even more excited for the next one. So
nice, nice. I love that. I love that. So, okay, it makes me curious, right? Because I'm like, all right, so what? You didn't grow up with this competitive nature, and now yours is on a deeper level. It's not like you were competing against other people. It's more like Susan competing with Susan, right? How old were you when you kind of like realized, or because you weren't like this as a child, right? So tell me a little bit about like your childhood, and then where you realized that you had this like this epiphany, this aha moment, right? This like discovery, and you're like, yo, this is who I can actually become, right? Before you got the books, there must have been something that clicked inside, if you can remember.
I'll tell you. And it happens it's not one aha moment. It's multiple situations that will occur, but I do remember one of my first ones. And I was working for an insurance company. Well, it was really a financial planning company. I remember I had met some folks in Florida when I was living in Florida. And then I moved up to New York, and my sister was like, oh, I met someone from this company. I think he used to work there. And she connected me with the group. And I'll never forget, and I'm going to say his name because he deserves it. But the vice president of the company, his name was Chung. I'll never forget. I was in the laundromat. It was like a Wednesday afternoon, and I was 21 years old.
Okay.
And he called me up and he says, what are you doing? And I said, I'm doing laundry. It's like midday. And he goes, what? He's like, why are you on appointments? And I said, oh my God, what do you mean? He goes, you're in the middle of, you're working. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're trying to make money. Like, you're trying to get better. You're trying to succeed. Why are you in the laundromat? And
right.
he embarrassed me so much that I was like, oh my gosh, I'll never do laundry in the middle of the day. And so,
right.
It was just like, it was like things that you can do production, to be productive versus idle time. And that was like sort of like one of the first situations that I said, oh my gosh, okay, so if I want to get here and be like this person, then there are things that I need to do or don't do at certain hours. And so that was like my first interaction. And being around people in that company, they were very, a lot of them were very successful, and they sort of kind of introduced me in a way to how life could be. I grew up, I would say, I was in Long Island, middle class America. My parents are actually from Jamaica, so they're immigrants. My mother is from Jamaica, and her husband, who I grew up with as my dad, is also Jamaican Chinese, which is where the last name comes from. A lot of people always ask.
Right. Okay.
They got divorced just like most parents do when we were really young. And we had a nice childhood, and then we didn't have a nice childhood, right? So, and I don't want to bore everybody that we all went through a lot of crazy stuff growing up, but I think somewhere during that transition of, there was a lot actually. So around like 13 years old, I found out that actually my dad was somebody else. And so there was that turmoil, and then they started getting divorced, and there was that turmoil. And so, it was sort of like, okay, where do I belong now? Like, whose family am I a part of? With my parents, they loved us, but they had a very hard time getting along. So, and unfortunately they were kind of terrible at hiding it. So I think what happened is at some point in childhood, you're kind of like, all right, well, I got to kind of figure this out, or figure out, like, where do I belong? Who loves me? Or how can I provide love for myself? And then when I got a little older, I met Chris, and I met a bunch of people from this company, and they sort of opened my eyes up to what else there is out there. My mom struggled a lot as a single mom after dad left. It was hard for her, and it was hard for us, and not like a boohoo story, everybody has one, but I think that was kind of like the backbone of saying, like, I never want to be in that position. Like, I never want to have to struggle. I never want to have to be in that position. I never want to have to worry about anything. And so I think that was probably like, just like certain things, certain circumstances that.
I love that. Thanks for sharing that. Right. Because, on on a lot of calls that I have, it's like I call that a catalyst for success. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like how we take that and we use it as like fire, as fuel, you know? And each one of us has it, right? It's this guy, Goku. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if you're into like anime Dragon Ball, but he's got it, right? And I have it, you have it, right? We just don't know what it is just yet. Like it's a catalyst for success, right? But then the opposite of it is that it's also a catalyst for absolute failure, right? And depression and a downward spiral. So it depends on what you do with it and how you use it, right? And there's this middle ground, like a fork in the road kind of, where something happens and you decide to go one way instead of the other way, right?
Oh yeah. So
Yeah.
when you should have
And like you said, sometimes it's an accumulation of things, events, you know, experiences, right? And it's not like you never made a bad decision. It's kind of like, all right, I realize what's on this side. I don't want to be on this side anymore. I want to go on this side. This side looks a little bit more, you know, worth, you know, pursuing, right? So I like that how you broke that down, and thanks for being so like open to share that, right? I think when I was about 13 or 12, I think I was like 12, that's when I realized, you know, because like you're from Jamaica, right? So you kind of know like the Caribbean vibes. Like we're not flashy people. We dress well, right? We eat well, but we're like really like conservative and we don't spend a lot of money. It's like it has to make sense, right? And it's kind of like you get what you need, you don't really get what you want kind of thing. That's how I grew up. You know what I mean?
I think that depends on where in the island you're from, because my dad's that way, my mom is the complete opposite.
So like my mom is the complete opposite of my dad. My dad is the conservative one, and my mom is like, you're my kids, whatever you want, you're gonna get. You know what I mean? Yes. So like you're 100% right. Yeah. So, you know, I realized maybe like at 12 that I had like some ambition to like get out there, but I couldn't because I was a kid. Right. But then you read about guys like Robert Kiyosaki, 9 years old, and you know, you read about, you know, other successful people like Mark Cuban, and like, you know, each one of them had their, or even I like Kevin O'Leary's story a lot with the gum on the floor, and he didn't want to be embarrassed by the girl, you know, at the mall who was watching him that he had a crush on. He was like, I'm never going to work for somebody again, right? And there's a ton of them. Like the most successful people have like the most heart-wrenching stories. You know what I mean? And you're like, dang. So it's like that is their catalyst for success, right? And when you think about it, here's what's interesting. I follow a lot of men who are probably, you know, my dad, for instance. He was like I don't think I was ever brought up or raised. I think I was trained. You know what I mean? Like from a very young age. I think he just trained us. Like that's what he did. He didn't understand. My mom raised us and she did the child rearing and what moms do. But my dad, he was more like, this is training. You know what I mean? So then like I look to guys like that, and that's kind of like how I found my way. But I've never understood what a woman has to go through, right? And I've never understood like, and not that because you know, not to take away from, you know, successful women, but it's just more like I've never walked those shoes, right? So it's kind of like, for you, how is it being, I'd say, a woman in sales, a woman in fitness, a woman in so many different competitive arenas? And how is that for you? Is it uplifting? Is it something that you kind of like? I think about women who join the army, and I'm like, I don't know if you remember G.I. Jane, and she had to go through so much just to get some respect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your experience as like a woman in sales and like, you know, in fitness. What's that like for you?
So it's a good question. Do you know that quote that says, everybody thinks you're crazy until you succeed, right?
Right.
So it's kind of the same concept. Like everybody kind of laughs or just kind of really just doesn't really pay attention until you're kicking ass.
Yeah.
So for me, like I said, I have blinders on. So personally, I don't give two F's what anybody thinks.
Let it fly, baby. Let it fly. Yeah.
Still a lady.
Right.
But I think if I think back into early years of my career, because I was actually recently asked this question and I was like, what do you mean? I don't see the problem. Like, I'm not sure. I'm not following.
I'm a lady. Oh, you're telling me?
Yeah. I was like, I have no problem being a woman in a man's world.
Right. Yeah.
But actually something happened recently where a colleague of mine was, had a situation where a man was very condescending to her, another broker in the business was very condescending to her. And I recognized that, first of all, it's all about respect. And if you respect yourself, everybody's going to respect you. And if they don't deserve a place in your life. The second thing is know your shit. Excuse my language. But if you're going to do something and you're going to do it great and you're going to be great at it, study it, practice it, know it like the back of your hand. Because nobody can tell you wrong. Nobody can tell you different. Nobody can put you down because you know better. You practiced, you studied, you researched, you know your stuff. And so I'll never be put in a position again. And I had this actually early on in my career where, and I don't know if it's because I'm a woman, but, somebody was kind of messing around with what I was supposed to get paid on certain transactions. And I let it slide for a little while thinking like, oh, it's going to come back. And I worked with some really nice people in the business. So it didn't even occur to me that he was trying to be shady. And then when I started picking up on it, I said, first of all, this is not going to fly. As soon as I started producing and he tried to do it again, I was like, listen, I don't know where this is coming from, but you're not going to treat me that way. And so you really, as a woman, you do unfortunately have to be, like they say, they want you to be strong, but you can't be a bitch. They want you to be, like, I was just watching the Barbie movie. She says, oh, everybody wants to, and you know what? Some of the things are so true. Like they want you to be strong. They don't want you to be a bitch. You have to lead, but you can't be a see you next Tuesday. You have to be a great mom, but you can't talk about your kids. It's like, there's all these contradicting situations that they put women in. And so what I've experienced, or in my experience, is just be on top of everything. Be on top of everything. And it's okay if you're not. Like, it's okay if you fall once in a while. We're humans. But if you want to gain respect in the fitness industry, in real estate, just practice, be the best, aim for being the best. And you don't need to be the best over everybody. Be the best version of you that you can be. If you're not good at something, get better at it, study it, teach it, learn it. And so I think that's what I would say is I am a student of my craft, and I never stop learning. I think foolish is the man that thinks that they have nothing else to learn, right? This business, it's funny because I'm almost 10 years in, which some people would laugh at. Some people are 30, 40, 50 years in, some people are 1 year in. Even 40, 50 years in, there's still something to learn. Transactions are different every day. Every single transaction is different. I think having an open mind and being able to absorb all that you can and all the education you can get your hands on, knowing the markets, like so important. Being able to educate your clients. Nobody will question you at all if you know your shit.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. You're
So
on the money.
Now people don't really say anything, but I do remember a time.
Yeah. So like you have so much going for you besides that, right? Because it's like, I think that's like a good way to start, right? Like know your shit, get it, down pat, know your industry, know your markets. That sounds great. But then it's like your personality. Like you have so much of it, right? And it's like you have so much confidence. You know what I mean? The confidence is what I think would probably intimidate a lot of men. You know what I mean? When you're first walking in. Because I could tell you when I first started in real estate, there weren't a lot of women. They weren't. We were on a sales floor and it was like mostly men. I can count maybe how many women were there. And maybe two of them were just doing administrative, like, picking up the phone and scheduling the calendars. And there was maybe like two more. There was one, I won't say their names, but I remember, and I started out on a, I don't know if you remember the movie Boiler Room with Vin Diesel.
I've heard of it, but I've never seen it.
So typical jock, locker room talk and, real man vibes, it's like not a lot of women. But what's intimidating is when a woman picks up the phone and she can control a conversation and she can persuade and she can educate. And now, she can, center that level of attention. She can command it. And then ask for a fee, right? And it's the level of confidence, which is like, it's that level of confidence to be able to convey your message and earn the respect, because you know your shit. Like that to me is like, I think exceptional in women in the game, you know what I mean? And that's what I see in you. I'm like, that's the level of confidence that this, and it's not just in your sales either. Like in real estate, I'm watching you like in your fitness, right? I'm watching you like with the Spartan race. I says, oh, she's killing it. Like she's like, forget the nails and the hair. You're in the mud, right? And that's life. Like that's life. You got to be willing to get in the mud, right?
Yep.
And so like hats off to you for that. You know what I mean? But like this is where I'm at too. Like, how do other women react to you? Are they like motivated by you? Are they like intimidated by it? Are they like, yeah, let's get it? Like, how do other, because you know, men the way we are, like we're just straight up competitive. It's like we're gonna compete on every level, and then that's how we earn respect. You know what I mean, from each other. My first friends, I keep telling my son, right? He's 11, and I'm like, listen, if he looks at you too long, he's trying to figure out if he can beat you. You know what I mean? Like he's not really trying to disrespect you. He's just trying to figure out if he could beat you. So don't give him you got to take, like we talk about basketball, right? So it's like, and that's how it is. Like men first, when we look at each other, we kind of like, we kind of see whether or not we should respect each other. I don't know if it's like that for women, right?
So I'm a firm believer in the laws of attraction, and I do think that you get back what you put out. I love people, I love girls, I love inspiring other girls, and I love girls who can inspire me. So often that's what my circles are filled with, are women who are like, oh, you're such an inspiration, and I'm like, right back at you, sis, you know? Nice. If I'm sure there is some jealousy out there, or, you know, haters, I guess. I think people sometimes maybe before meeting me might think that, like my friends will say it, you know, or my sister will say it, like, you know, sometimes you can be intimidating because you're attractive and you're in shape and you've got a good business, but that's like before people get to know me. And yes, there is all that, but I'm a sweet person. Like I'm actually a very, I mean, I think I'm a nice person. Yeah. But like I said, it's the law of attraction, right? So I get back what I put out. You know, I'm vibrating at a certain level that's going to attract that same vibration. And so if you are hating, you're probably not going to be attracted into my circle at all.
Yeah. Yeah. How is that? Okay. So like you could have chose anything, right? You could have chose car sales. You could have been a doctor, a nurse. You could have done anything, right? Like I just get that vibe from you. If you really wanted to do it, you could probably think about it. You could probably get it done, right? Right. Why did you pick real estate out of all things? Like, what is it about real estate for you?
Actually, so my biological father, I was running his wholesale beverage distributor in Flatbush, Brooklyn.
Oh, nice.
When I was 20-something years old. Yeah, and I had a customer that used to come in. I would buy vitamin waters for him only. He'd ask me for certain flavors, and I would go out of my way to make sure that they were there. And he wasn't the only customer I had, but I did it for him specifically. Yeah. He happened to be a mortgage broker.
Okay.
My sister on my dad's side is also in real estate. My aunt on my mom's side is in real estate, two of them actually. And so real estate's sort of in the family. But I can remember one day specifically before, when my dad was alive, I was in the beer store and I was talking to this mortgage broker customer at the time. And my dad turned around and said to me, I think you'd make a good broker. And I remember being like, oh, there's an interesting idea. Yeah. So I took the test. I went and I couldn't take off. This is so crazy. I've always had a very strong work ethic. That's one thing I've had my whole life, because I never wanted to be broke after struggling growing up. Right. So I always had a strong work ethic. And I remember I would work 6, sometimes 7 days a week. And I'd work from 10 in the morning to 11 o'clock at night. No holidays off, no weekends off for like 6 years. Nice. And I was young, I was in my 20s. I was in the middle of Brooklyn. Yeah. And so my dad, so I didn't have enough time to actually take off and take the real estate course, which is like a 2-week course. It's a joke. Yeah. And so I took the class online, which I don't recommend anybody doing. But it took me 9 months to finish the class. They give you 6 months, and if you don't finish in those 6 months, they can add another 3. And it took me 9 months because I literally only had like an hour a day to study. You know, I'd be in the office and in the beer store, like on the computer, trying to, you know, answer these questions. And then I studied as hard as I could, and I took the test, and I nailed it. I remember my first experience before I was even licensed. My sister, my dad hooked me up with my sister, and I went with her to, I'll never forget, a beautiful brownstone on McDonough Avenue in Bed-Stuy. Nice. And I remember standing there. She wanted me to help her with an open house, and she handed me the flyers. And I stood in the front door and I greeted everybody that came in. First woman that came in, true story.
Yeah.
I said, welcome. And I'm going to hand her the flyer, and she puts her hand in my face. Stop.
Wow.
She says, I know what I'm doing. And she was so rude. And she grabbed the flyer like a bat out of hell. She ran through the house and she ran out the door.
Yeah.
And from that day, I was like, I think I could do this.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it sort of, and I was just like, all right, this could be a thing.
Yeah.
I remember it was Labor Day weekend, and which was our busiest holiday, and I would have like stacks of pallets just waiting to go out.
Right.
So much business. And I was struggling really hard to get my dad to like make changes that would better the business.
Yeah.
So finally I just said, oh, you know what? I was like, listen, I can't grind away here if I can't see a future, or if like it's not going to go in a direction that's going to make sense or make business better.
Yeah. I
kind of figure this out. So I remember the first time in 6 years I took a week off. It was the first time I went to the beach since I moved back to New York.
Okay.
It was like 7 or 8 years.
Wow.
And I remember crying, and I said to my mom on the beach, I don't want to go back. And then the next day.
Where were you? Florida? Were you coming from Florida?
I was living here. I grew up in Long Island, moved to Florida, and then moved back to New York
Okay.
City.
Got it. Right.
And I remember just telling my mom, like, I don't want to go back to the store. I want to try something else. And I was so afraid. I was afraid that I couldn't make money myself. I was afraid to not be on my dad. I was afraid to just rest on my own pen, so to speak. And so the next day, or like right after that week, I had already hung my license at one of the boutique firms in the neighborhood. And I walked in, and I was like, I'm going to come full time. What do I do? And my broker was like, this is how long I'm going back. She was like, go across the street and go get the magazines.
Yeah.
Like the Home Finder magazines.
Right.
And call up the classifieds. Like, look in the classified section.
I remember the classifieds. Yeah.
Like, call every single one of them and offer to advertise their apartments for free. Nice. And that's exactly what I did. I had a really adorable camera that I borrowed from her, and I went and I would just go and shoot these pictures, and I'd upload them. I had no idea what I was doing. I remember I had a boyfriend at the time. He would drive me to places, and he would be like, do you even know what you're doing? And I'd be like, no clue. But I'm doing it. Right. And I remember my first year in business, I equaled the salary that my dad was paying me, and I was like, done. I had my own schedule. I had my own hours. Nice. I was like, this is the best move I ever made. Yeah, it was amazing. It was awesome.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so you took the chance. That's what it was. You took the chance, right, to get out there on your own. Yeah. What did your dad say? It was like, say it again.
I was just saying, somebody just said you'd make a good broker. And it was just like, somebody saw it in me, and I rolled with it. Like, the first mortgage broker set me up with a company. I interviewed with them. They were like, come back when you're licensed. Yeah. They didn't give me a chance at all. So I was like, all right, let me figure this out. Nice. But yeah.
Yeah. I love that. So, okay, here's a question for you, right? Sales is cool, real estate is cool, but then you also like really into like health and fitness, right? When do you find time, right? Because I know me, I'm running around and I was like, I'll grab a burger here. I'm the worst. Like, my diet is just the worst, right? Like, I'm no good with it, right? But you look like you're staying on top of your health, and like, health is wealth in your world, right? So how do you balance that? I'm wondering, right? Like, when you're out and about, are you meal prepping? Are you going out to eat at like healthy option restaurants, right? What is that? How do you find time? You know what I mean? To keep
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
So I'm on a complete time block schedule. I time block everything as much as I can.
Yeah.
But that doesn't always work. Monkey wrenches get thrown in the way. Just to give you an example of what today is going to look like.
Right.
So I try to schedule time to cook during the day.
Yeah.
Doesn't always happen. Sometimes I'll have to just run out and grab something. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But I also don't hold myself back. I'm not and probably should. I've been in even better shape. But, you know, I mean, if I'm asked to dinner, I go to dinner. If I'm, you know, running around and I don't have time to stop, I'll grab a salad or whatever, you know, or if I'm having a light day, I'll have brunch with a girlfriend, you know, and or a client and grab a salad that way or grab something that way. I'm addicted to panino rustica, if anybody knows it. But so when I'm training, I do follow a timed nutrition schedule. Okay. And a girlfriend of mine actually introduced me to it. And it's based on how many calories I would burn sitting still. So it's not going to be the same for everybody. It's based on my BMRR. And so it's something I set up myself. So I'll have a certain amount of protein, a certain amount of carbs, a certain amount of vegetables before and after my workouts. An hour before or an hour after. But since my workouts are so early in the morning, I often skip the first one, which is not really good. And then I'll just kind of keep going throughout the day. And then I eat every 2 to 3 hours after that, whether it's, you know, a smoothie or some kind of a protein shake. You know, so it's like protein and fruit, like that's the next meal. Or, and then the next one after that would be like a fat and a vegetable. So like hummus and carrots or hummus and cucumbers or something like that. And then I'll have another solid meal at the end, no carbohydrates.
Okay, so
that's
there's
not always the case.
But you do the best you can, it sounds like, right? Just to stay on track, right? So there's this saying, right, that women teach men how to eat, right? Like a guy, that's what it's like a saying I've heard a million times, right? It's like you're a savage, you need a woman in your life. She'll teach you how to eat the right way. She'll teach you how to eat the right foods, right? What's it like for you in the dating world, right? Like, are guys intimidated by you, by your success, by your fitness regimen? Like, what's it like for you in the dating world? And not only that, I just want to ask you also, like, it's who leads, right? Like, what do you think about, like, if you are dating, do you expect him to like make the expectations or make the reservations, right? Or have expectations, or is it the other way around? Like, how does that work?
Oh, that's such a good question. So I am dating, I'm single. And I've actually in the last 2 years, I've actually been dumped because of my job, my career, twice. So it does happen, unfortunately. On one end, sometimes, you know, people are intimidated. On the other end, you're a little too busy. So it's not always the easiest to balance. Even though I'm independent, I'm a strong woman, I am your definition probably of a feminist, I allow the man to lead and I expect my male to lead. And I'm probably a little behind maintenance on that, but like I said, I put out I get back what I put out, and I'm vibrating at a certain level. I'm an alpha female. I do want an alpha male. So, with that being said, everything is fluid, right? So like, you're not always going to have, like, that's not going to be the case every time, right? Once in a while, I'll meet a man who's like, oh, hey, do you mind making that reservation? No, sure, I'll make the reservation. It's not a big deal. Is it my favorite? No. But can I handle it? Of course. But it can be kind of tough. Sometimes men are intimidated, but I think a lot of there are men out there that are like very right there with me, you know?
Who pays?
Like,
So who pays? Who pays? If you're out on a date, who pays?
I never pay.
Good.
and I don't mean that in a rude way. It's just that, you know, first of all, my time is very, very valuable.
Good.
And if you would like me to stop what I'm doing to spend time with you, I need to make sure that it's not a waste of it. It costs me a lot of money to take care of myself the way I do. I have 3 different gym memberships. I take care of my health, as you say. My supplements cost a ton of money. My skincare costs a ton of money. And you want a woman that looks good, takes care of herself. You know, there's costs involved. And I don't mean to be like, well, I did all this. But, you know.
Right.
But no, I never pay, and I don't recommend. I mean, listen, wait, let me back up. Hold on.
Okay.
Because if it's a birthday, sometimes I do want to pay. Sometimes there are times where I'm like, oh, it's my treat this time, and I get excited about sharing that. But if it's a first date, I never pay. Further into the relationship, no problem. We want to split stuff down the road, I don't mind at all. I love I love treating my partner for dinners, vacations, you know, things like that. If they let me, sometimes, most of the time they don't. Most of the time they're like, please don't insult me. But if it's a first date, if you expect me to come out of pocket, that is the last date.
Yeah, that's good to hear that. Yeah, I hear that a lot, and I kind of like, I don't know. I think it's like a higher expectation for the man. Like, don't invite her out if you're not going to pay. You know what I mean? Like,
if you've ever read Steve Harvey, sorry, not to cut you off, but if you've ever read Steve Harvey, Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man, 100%. Men are here. I mean, I love the male species, do not get me wrong, but until a man knows who he is, knows what he does, and has his career established and is earning money, there's no room for a woman in your life, right?
There you go.
If you can't afford to take the woman out, first of all, if you can't afford to go to that restaurant, you're dating on a different caliber than you need to be. Bring it down.
Right.
You know? If your comfort zone is McDonald's, you date girls who can go to McDonald's. No disrespect.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's fine. Like, that's totally okay. If you date within your caliber, you date within your speed. And if you don't have the money to date yet, don't date. You work on yourself first. You get yourself to that level, and then you can bring a woman into your life.
Yeah, love that. Love that. Okay, so let's just say, because this is hard for me to process, right? Like, what you're saying is what I believe 150%. It's like the dating world has changed since, you know, I want to say over the past 10 years. It's changed a lot, right? And here's the thing. I think women make excuses for men now, a lot of excuses for men, and men have women, both men and women equally are guilty of having unrealistic expectations for the other one, right? I like what you just said about not having enough money. You shouldn't be dating. You shouldn't have that woman in your life. Now let's just, okay, so does a woman, and you can just give me your general opinion about this, right? And you can make it specific to you if you'd like. But if you are a career woman and you're driven by your own, you know, goals and making your own money, how does a man get a woman to become a wife and a mother, right? And make that transition from career to the home? Like, is that something that's worth pursuing for a successful man? Or is it more like, well, she likes to work, let her work? Like, how does that even work?
That's a good question, and I'm not there, so I don't know. But I would imagine that if you're a man looking for a successful woman or looking to be in a relationship with a successful woman, elevate yourself first. Elevate yourself first, and you will attract her.
Yeah.
The two of you can figure out how you're going to make marriage and children work together after that. Everything's case by case, and every relationship is different. Just because the eyes of the world might not actually be the way that other people view it, but I'm still figuring it out. I'm still trying to find my forever person. So you know, what I will say though is, even though I am looking for a partner, looking for a husband, I also refuse to settle for just anybody. I'm not afraid to be alone. I value my alone time. And so for me, I'd rather have the right fit than just a fit. Yeah. And so to me, that's more important, right? Finding the person. I'm not trying to do this more than once.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I want it to be there, and that's it. It takes us to, you know, the next lifetime.
Right.
So it's more important to me to find someone that I can love for the rest of my life and be with for the rest of my life. And I don't know that being successful or having a career, I think when two beings come together, they'll figure it out themselves.
Yeah. Okay. I agree with you 100%. I was talking to someone the other day who was like, well, I'm only working, and she was very successful, right? And it's actually the two of them, they kind of like date other people they're dating or whatever. And the guy says to me that I will work so that I can find the woman that I want to have my children and be married. And the girl says, I'm only working until I find the right person. After that, I have no problem quitting. Right. And then I'll just be focused on the mom. And what came to mind, focus on being a mom. And what came to mind was that I think that's what most women actually want. Like, they want to be a mom. They want to be like a wife, and they want to take care of the home, but they just haven't found the right person, but they have to provide for themselves in the meantime. So they got really, really good at it.
Yeah.
Right. Like, they got really, really good at it. And they were like, well, I know I could do this on my own. You're going to have to either now. Do you think a man should make as much as the woman he's with, or should he make more?
Oh gosh. So I just to address the former conversation, this is actually somewhere I am at right now. I've never been married to the idea. I love kids. I love kids. I adore them. But I've never actually been like, oh, I have to be a mom. I have to be a mom. You know, for me, it's like, well, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Yeah.
If my partner wants to have kids, 1000% I'm giving you babies. You know, as many as you want. We can have as many babies as you want, right? Like that's kind of where I'm at. But if they don't, I'm also very comfortable just loving each other for the rest of our lives and traveling and doing our thing.
Yeah.
So for me, children has never been like a pressed or die hard. I have to have that. Yeah. Now, to address the second part of your question, which was like working and then stopping.
Yeah. Does she have to make as much money? Let's talk about the money.
Oh, that's right. Okay, I think I got that wrong.
Does a man have to make as much money as you, or should the man make more money than you?
I'm on the fence because at certain points in my life, I would have been like, so I don't want to be the breadwinner, right? Okay. I mean, I have no problem being the breadwinner, but I don't want to be. I would prefer if he makes more. However, I do love to help people grow. And so as long as the ambition is there and you're coachable and if you need that support from me as your person, I'm happy to watch you get there, you know, or take you to that level.
Yeah.
But there has to be a plan in place.
Got it.
Am I opposed to dating a man that makes less? Absolutely not. I've dated men that make a quarter of my salary.
Yeah, that's crazy, right? So I think that is crazy to me, right? Because like I'm from the generation where it's like you have to make more. You know what I mean? Number one. Number two, because I think
I still don't pay. They still take care of everything.
Yeah, because like at the end of the day, it's like I think women love security. They love safety and security, and they will feel secure in the fact that you can double what they make, because that way they're secure in whatever home you can provide, right? Or whatever situation you can provide for them, right? So for me, like I'm from that mindset where it's like, nah, bro, if your girl makes 150, you got to make 3. You know what I mean? And you can't invite her out to go conquer the lands with you. You got to go conquer those lands. Like that's your thing. You know what I mean? And I think that's the standard. So like when I hear women say things like, oh, well, I can coach him, I can help him. I think that it's good if you have a son, like if you're coaching and you're helping your son based on the father's ideals, great. But like, as far as a man, it's like, and I've been in a situation where women have given me ideas and, you know, and just friends of mine, not like girls that I'm dating, just like girls that give me ideas, like kind of like a friend of mine or whatever. And it's kind of like, yo, that was a pretty good idea, but I got it from here. You know what I mean? And it's like, I'm open to that. I'm open to the fact that you want to talk about it. And but let me go hunt and kill. And I'll tell you about the kill after I bring you, you know what I mean? After I bring you for you to store and ration, you know what I mean? Like and I think most men, I don't know if that kind of thinking is dying out. I think millennials kind of have a little bit of that, but like the next generation, not so much.
They're getting a little lazy.
You know what I mean?
So that's kind of what I meant before. It's vibrationally, when you're in your divine feminine or divine masculine, you're going to attract another divine feminine or masculine.
Right.
You can date, you can fool around. It's probably not going to go any further than that, unfortunately. When you're earning a certain level of income and your partner is not, there is a gap in what the two of you can do together because of that.
Right.
So I recognize that. But am I saying that you can't date them? No, by all means. I would happily, it probably would not end up, into a marriage unless there was a plan in place for him to grow. And I'm 100% with you. Part of being a man, in my opinion, is you provide, protect, these are things that you do as a man, and the woman nurtures, and they're just instinctive roles that we play. It's not, oh, I'm independent. Yes, I'm independent, but I don't want to always have to take care of everything.
Right.
So I have to agree with you there. I think it's really important for a man to go out and hunt and bring back the kill and tell me all about it later. But can it happen? Sure. Yeah. And is it annoying? I mean, like I said, I don't want to make more than my partner, but have I? Sure.
Yeah. Okay. I hear you. Sorry about that. I'll apologize for him. Right. let's see. No,
Don't. I don't date men that are not ambitious, even if they're earning a low salary.
Yeah.
Like I said, if the ambition is there, if the drive is there, the ambition is there, the salary is going to be there, the income is going to be there. I'm not worried.
It'll be there eventually, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
if they're taking care of it, if they're acting like the man, they're holding it down. It's just more of motivation for them to work harder.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. Because everybody does, you know, the higher you go, the further down you'll fall. And it's good to have a support system there. I know that a lot of men, if you have that good relationship with your wife and you could be transparent, you could be vulnerable, and you can go to the next level, but you're going to have to take like a pay cut to get there. She's going to hold it down, right? But it shouldn't be for too long, right?
I mean,
it should be a temporary situation.
Temporary situation, agreed. Like you're not like a successful CEO in a company is not dating necessarily the burger flipper from Burger King. So I mean, that's what I meant before with date within your respective your respective area. So if you cannot like I like nice things, I treat myself to nice things. If you cannot afford to treat me to nice things, we're not on the same level, right? And so there's going to be, if you want to do it once in a while, great. We have a great time. We'll love it. But there's going to be some kind of a gap there, right?
Yeah, makes sense. 100%. Yeah. I think, okay, so like you have a few things going on. You've got the fitness thing going on. I think you've got a lot going on in Bay Ridge. There's guys there. You've got the sales thing going on. There's guys there. Did you ever get the whole jealous boyfriend thing? Like, how do you respond to that? Like, you're around too many guys, or
that's so funny.
Yeah.
So luckily, I kind of prep them. First of all, most of the time they know and understand my personality from the beginning. And I'll tell you one thing, it took a really, really long time for me to understand my personality and for me to be able to explain my personality and for people to see it. This is all about getting to know you, right? The parts about like the early parts of a relationship is getting to know you. And that's why jumping in is kind of like, full force. That's not always the best. But thankfully, so I should say, earlier in my career, having to network and having to be around, especially a ton of males, because men tend to be, the business owners and the developers and the contractors and the you know what I'm saying? Like men tend to be like the ones who run these businesses that realtors are often involved in. So early on in my career, I did have a boyfriend who, it would get brought up quite a bit. It would cause a lot of fights. But slowly you kind of understand like, well, this is my personality. I'm very friendly. I get very friendly with my clients. I love my friends to death. So sometimes that comes off as flirting and you do, but I have learned over the years to set strong boundaries and that is key. So showing that you can set strong boundaries, especially in and around your partner, will allow them the security to understand that, hey, you are a woman in a man's world, but I know you're holding it down. And if you're not interested, it's not going there. As a woman in the industry, men will try you. It happens all the time. And they're going to flirt and you're going to flirt back and you're going to play the game, whatever. But overall, it's being able to say, like the boundary, right? Like I was in a restaurant the other day and the owner came up and he put his hand right on the small of my back and I said, oh, I'm sorry, but I didn't give you permission to put it there. And it's very polite. It's done very nicely. It's not rude or inappropriate in any way. It's just like, I didn't allow you to do that. And so you can't take it that step further. And funny thing about boundaries is when you're young and you're setting them, like you're afraid to insult people, you're afraid to lose people, you're thinking, oh, you're going to be abandoned, people are going to leave your life because you set a boundary or because you come off as rude, and that is a recipe for disaster because it causes people to walk all over you and you're constantly fighting for the respect. When you set a boundary, when you set firm boundaries, it shows everybody around you, this is how I expect to get treated, and they follow it. And if they don't follow it, there's just no room in your life for them. So
that's the confidence that I think you have to tell a man, no, I didn't give you permission to put your hand there, right? You stand up for yourself, you're assertive. Yes, you're attractive, but you're also assertive, right? I think what a lot of guys struggle with is that when they are making either as much as a woman or maybe less than a woman, they're a little bit more insecure, and they feel like they can lose that woman if that woman is around a lot of guys in a successful, environment. And then you have men who probably make more than the women that they're with, and they're like, no, that's okay, that's my wife, come over, I'll introduce, right? And it's kind of like they're a little bit more secure in themselves and their ability to provide. And that goes right back to it, kind of like what you talked about, if you're not on the same level. So it's kind of like, and I've noticed this in different circles, right? That, yeah, if you are not of the same financial income bracket, then you shouldn't date below that, or you shouldn't date above that. Why? Because that sense of security that you have, women love security. So the first security is like, they want to see that a man is secure in himself. He's confident, he believes in himself. And then that's kind of like what you're talking about, the vibrational frequency that you pull in, right? Because now you know that you can trust each other and you're going to still set boundaries, right? Have you seen that? I guess, and I don't want to get into like your past relationships, just maybe just generally, have you seen that men who are insecure generally are maybe, under a certain, I guess, income bracket, or no, not at all? Okay.
No, it has nothing to do. I mean, don't get me wrong.
In comparison to their partner.
No, I've been with men that make millions that would still give me a hard time. So
yeah, okay.
No, yeah. I don't. I think it's more so just it's the work that they've put into themselves in bettering themselves. It's and then it's the dynamic between the two of you. Like I said, it took me a long time to understand that this is who I am. And if I can't explain to you who I am or what I've gone through, I cannot set expectations. And therefore, we're on different pages entirely. Yeah. So I think it's really, that's why it all comes down to self-love, self-care, learning a lot of doing inner child work, learning a lot about yourself, learning a lot about who you are, allows you to prepare your partner for your personality. Yeah. And that goes really into it. And then establishing that trust and that foundation that, no matter what income level, if I have respect for you, which, I mean, don't get me wrong, sometimes money provides a level of respect, but not all the time.
It's more about who you are as a person.
Who you are in a person is how secure you are in yourself. And if you're secure in yourself, I know that you can provide for me under any circumstance. And then there's that respect factor. So if I'm over here chatting with this person and they want to flirt, well, there's my husband over there, or there's my boyfriend over there, or there's my partner over there. Those lines just don't get crossed, in my opinion.
Nice. Love it. I love it. It's good stuff. Okay. Yeah. So, okay. What's next for you, Susan? So you've been in this industry for over 10 years, right? I don't know. I see you writing a book. I see you, opening a yoga studio. I see you doing all kinds of things. What's next for you?
Oh my gosh, that's really awesome. I actually see myself writing a book and opening a yoga studio too. Yeah. So that's really
yeah.
Yeah. And it's actually a yoga studio is something that I've been wanting to do from when I was in my early 20s when I started doing yoga. I've always wanted to move to Arizona. My sister, like I told you, she's a naturopathic doctor. And so having like a health and wellness spa in a sense where I can have yoga and we can have some kind of fitness center attached to it or something like that. I've always envisioned doing with her, but it was more so after retirement. So anyway, so next for me, and I've always thought a book would be nice. I actually do journal. It's one of my hobbies. It's something I do pastime. I've done it since I was a little girl.
Yeah.
Wow. So okay. is a big thing for me. Yeah. So writing is something I love to do. But so next for Susan.
Yeah.
There's so much.
Yeah.
There's so much. I'm trying to. You're probably going to laugh at this, but I'm hoping, got my fingers crossed, hoping to get onto a real estate reality show. We'll see.
I can see that. I can definitely see that.
That's one of my dreams. I've always wanted.
Yeah.
I love to travel, so being able to systemize my business to a point where I can, culture myself a little bit more would be phenomenal. So heading towards, maybe having some agents underneath me so that I can grow and build and leverage a lot more. It would be great. But yeah, the TV show is.
I could definitely see that for sure. Definitely.
I would love that.
Yeah.
That would be so great.
So before I let you go, I've got a quick game for you, right? We have to call it the lightning round, right? Hands down, okay? You ask your opinion about 3 topics. If you don't like the topic, just say pass and I'll move on to the next one, okay?
Okay.
All right. So you're walking with your boyfriend or your fiance. No, I want to say your boyfriend, 3rd date, 4th date, right? And which side of the street should he have you walking on?
I'm inside and he is on the street side.
Okay. Now, for some reason, you have to keep reminding them. How does that play out? Like, is that a deal breaker for you, or is like not a big deal?
I feel like you're living my life.
Yeah.
It's not a deal breaker, but just pay attention.
Pay
If I have to
attention.
tell you once, you're obviously not paying attention, and that part would irritate me more. It's not so much that you're putting me on the outside; it's that I have to constantly remind you.
Got
And
it.
like I'm not your mom. Like just pick it up.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
So do the
all
right
right.
thing.
Okay. Does this guy pick you up at your place, or does he meet you, or do you meet at the restaurant?
It depends. Depends on how comfortable I feel with the person and how I know them.
It depends.
I don't online date, but so oftentimes people that I would go out with, I'd meet in person first, meaning like through some kind of activity, like whatever I'm doing. If I'm in the coffee shop, if I'm in the gym, whatever it is.
Yeah.
If it's through real estate, oftentimes I'll meet people first in person.
Yeah.
I don't online date. If I had to online date, I'll meet you there.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Audio book or old school hardcover, softcover book? Both?
Both. 100% both. I have the hardcover because I like something to read, but if I'm in the car, I want to have the audiobook. And sometimes I put both on at the same time. I'll listen while I'm reading.
Oh, wow. Okay. So it's like you get the narrating going on at the same time. Yeah, that's good because it's visual and audio.
So, yeah, I don't like to
Yeah.
miss a beat. If I'm home reading it or if I'm in the car reading it, you know.
Nice. Okay. Sushi or steak?
Steak.
Steak. Okay. All right. How do you like your steak?
Medium rare.
Medium rare. Got
And
it.
I cook a mean steak. Actually, somebody recently taught me and I nailed it.
Nice. Okay.
Kudos to them.
Yeah. Okay. Pre-workout or no pre-workout?
Pre-workout.
Pre-workout. Okay.
Pre and post. And post. BCAAs all the way, baby. Amino acids.
Nice. Okay. And you have an event coming up, right? I think Bay Ridge. What's this? Fit for Success, right? Yeah. Okay, we're gonna talk about that just in a minute. Okay. Ooh, okay. So last question for the lightning round. Work until you retire or never retire?
So, fudge. I know myself and I say I'm going to work until I retire, but I know I'm going to work way past my retirement. I can just tell. And it's not because I have to, it's because I want to.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. And okay, tell me a little bit about this. Now we've got where do people find you? First of all.
Where do people find me?
Yeah.
Like my clients?
Fans, audience, your network, anybody watching this right here who wants to get to know Susan and work with Susan?
I think referrals. Well, like my clients, I'm 100% referral based. Yay. So I don't do any cold calling or anything like that. People would refer me. I think for social media, I don't know where people find me. I guess from sharing stories. I'm not really sure.
Yeah. Well, I found you on Instagram.
Yeah, I don't know. How did you
find you on Instagram? Yeah. And then you have this.
Maybe I don't know.
Well, follow Susan on Instagram, okay? That's where I found you. Yeah. And so, okay, let's talk about this. Fit for Success. You're in Bay Ridge. When is this happening? Is this August 26th?
So, there's 3 dates. Basically, because everybody always asks me, what do I do to stay fit? And I love your body. I thought it would be really nice to extend the opportunity to people in the community to get an idea of what I do with my classes and with my fitness and my care. And so I'm inviting the community. I'm sponsoring 3 intro to fitness courses. One will be yoga. That's August 26th, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Second one is going to be calisthenics. I love calisthenics, arm balances. I'm training right now, actually, with this trainer in particular, Aiden Ramos. He's so great. He is an instructor at Badass. He's doing it September 2nd. And then Yaya, love her to death. She's teaching a dance fitness class. She has a huge following. So everybody just loves her. She makes you feel super sexy as a woman. I highly recommend taking that class if you're a female or anybody really. But anybody that wants to dance and shake their booty a bit, that one is September 9th from 9:30 to 10:30.
Nice. All right. So follow Susan here. And Susan, finally, what is your bottom line? That reoccurring truth for you that, like, no matter what happens, bad day, rainy day, disappointing day, deal falls through, you go back to this reoccurring truth and it serves as like rocket fuel for you. What is that for you? What's your bottom line?
Gratitude. It's gratitude. 100%. I woke up this morning, I'm so happy. It's actually, somebody said this to me yesterday or 2 days ago. Any day that you're looking down at the ground and not up at it is a good day.
Amen.
So.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Yeah. Well, that was amazing. Susan, you are phenomenal. Thanks for being so open and sharing so much, right? I will continue to follow you on Instagram. Ladies and gentlemen, follow Susan Chung here. The Lady Realtor is her name on Instagram. You can find her there, right? Thanks for taking the time, Susan. This was the Bottom Line Podcast, where we say what we mean, and we mean what we say, because at the core of everything that is, was, and forever will be, there will always be the bottom line.
Thank you.